Alright, Wuchang Fallen Feathers, a new Souls-like from a developer that is also new in the entire genre. A very well made game that certainly deserves a feather in its cap. And therefore a new Souls-like to challenge run. Now of course one of the most classic types of challenges is the level 1 run. However, what exactly does that entail in a game that has a skill tree in place of a standard leveling up system? Well, whenever you use Mercury, this game's version of Souls, to purchase a skill point for the skill tree, you gain one level. However, there are also a limited and set amount of skill points that can be acquired out there in the world, which do not increase your level. So, what would it be like to go through the game when you cannot purchase any skill points and have to rely solely on the ones found in the world itself? Oh, and as a completely arbitrary secondary restriction, let's also not use any spells. I will only have the first one obtained equipped as a more obvious to the eye Skyborn Might indicator, which is a type of energy akin to an FP bar that you acquire by iframing through enemy attacks, or through specific perks from the skill tree. Still, it doesn't sound too restrictive, but the thing with level 1 runs is that, not surprisingly, the farther you get into the game, the more noticeable the gap will be between level 1 and a normal playthrough. Not to mention that when you do this so quickly after finishing your first playthrough of the game, you're bound to not exactly approach things in the most efficient way, as you would have no clue what the most efficient way would even be in the first place. So especially the late game might indeed ruffle my feathers quite a bit. Okay then, there we go. Wuchang awakens, mind blank, left arm infected with feathers, and her inner demon lurking in the back of her mind as a shadow. Now back in those days, your inner demon was like a manifestation of your spiritual shortcomings, whereas nowadays it would be a manifestation of your browser history. But this particular demon provides Wuchang with her first weapon, is encountered throughout the world to acquire certain needle upgrades, and can manifest after death as a hostile stalker, but is also hostile to enemies, and therefore can be used to your advantage as well. But what's even more advantageous is that the tutorial boss is one of those encounters that you are more or less expected to lose, and if you do, you won't get a second attempt, but if you succeed, you will get rewarded. And that reward is pretty damn huge for a level 1 run, because it consists of no less than 5 skill points. After all, we don't know exactly how many there are in the game, so we really have to make them count. And although I have to admit that I didn't pay attention to the story, at all, I am pretty sure that this is supposed to be your mutated younger brother. At the very least that sounds about right in a Souls-like, that it's something morbid, tragic and depressing. But the thing that is certainly not depressing is that with 5 skill points from the start, we can already unlock the X branch of the skill tree up to the first weapon upgrade node. The 5th node being the highly valuable instant charge attack, given how much of this game revolves around backstabbing your enemies for a critical attack, like in Bloodborne. Not to mention that just like the Hunter's Axe in Bloodborne, using spin to win to knock enemies down on the ground is very much applicable here as well. Now, it might not appear that the axe would be a beneficial weapon to use at level 1, given its high stamina consumption, but the thing is that this weapon class absolutely shines against regular enemies, because every attack makes them flinch, meaning that... not every single enemy, so it doesn't apply completely mindlessly spamming R1, but the point is that it prevents you from having to deal with some very frequent cases of enemies using hyper armor to attack right through your attacks. In my first playthrough, where I mainly used dual blades, that was something that made this game really stand out in that respect. In fact, after this run was complete, a patch came out that included a nerf to the enemy hyper armor. Now, when it comes to using combos against enemies, which depending on the weapon and the skills unlocked in the skill tree, can also give you Skyborn Might, but a very important aspect for any weapon that you use is that the weapon skills do not consume stamina when charged with Skyborn Might, allowing for combos in which you use your weapon skill to allow your stamina to regenerate, allowing you to continue, or in order to get a final additional attack in when you're already out of stamina. Now, unlike a lot of Souls games, armor has no weight in this game and has no bearing on stamina regen. In fact, there are a handful of outfits that don't necessarily convey the idea of offering protection in the first place.
I do a lot of gooning.
But appearances aside, in this game, attires each have their own specialty. Heavy looking armor may provide high slash and stab resistance, but low blunt resistance, and might even have negative resistances to status effects. On a side note, throughout the game there are these birds that drop Wuchang Feathers, which provide you with a temporary random buff to either health, stamina or damage output. To be fair, it feels kinda bad since they are just minding their own business. But hey, birds of a feather get fucked up together. I also picked up a spear and a one-handed sword early on, but because of how the skill tree is constructed, and since I have limited skill points to work with, spears will only become relevant later on in the run. And the one-handed sword class is specifically meant for magic builds, and therefore not applicable at all. Not to mention that they have the worst backstab animation of any weapon. Because when it comes down to it, against humanoid enemies, the most important form of offense is backstabbing with the instant charge. Simply put, if you manage to get backstabs, the fight will be easy. If you don't manage to do that, it might be a different story. Fortunately, the first bosses ease you into the mechanics of this game and feel more like mini-bosses to teach you the basics. Now, it's not gonna remain that way, of course, and the more erratic the moveset of a boss becomes, the harder it can be to find the much shorter windows of opportunities to backstab them in the first place. So, after the first proper boss, yet still mini-boss-esque type of fight, we are introduced to the tempering system, which basically means weapon buffs. Now you will get the fire needle for free, and given that the other ones are acquired from the skill tree, the majority of the playthrough I will have to make do with fire as my only element. But be that as it may, fire is actually a very solid elemental damage type in this game. But of course the most efficient way to increase our damage is by acquiring red feathers to upgrade our weapon. Or better said, to upgrade our weapon class, as upgrading the axe in the skill tree will apply to any axe that you find. Moreover, all of your upgrade materials can be reapplied to other weapon classes when reallocating your skill points, which can be done for free at any time at a shrine. But speaking of the axe class specifically, on a rooftop we find the Empyrean axe, a direct upgrade over the halberd, and with a very fancy weapon skill that launches you into the air while setting the axe on fire. But the first area of the game also contains 4 red-eye non-respawning elite enemies. And these are the types of enemies that drop skill points, so especially relevant on level 1. One can be found on the same rooftop where we found the Empyrean axe. Then there is the one that drops the Ming armor set, which is great for slash and stab resistance. There's another one in Endelum, an area that I completely missed on my first playthrough by the way, because the level design in this game is incredibly Dark Souls 1-esque. And judging by the fact that I still don't have the trophy for activating every single shrine in the game, apparently I still haven't come across every single section of the game. Which is pretty unbelievable at this point, I must say. And then there is the final one near the statue where you can rid yourself of madness with divine gifts. Madness is mainly acquired through repeated deaths, causing you to both inflict as well as to take more damage, sort of like using a beast blood pellet in Bloodborne. And when you die at full madness, it will spawn an inner demon, as I mentioned before. But the thing with this particular red eye enemy is that he also drops the next tier of red feather. So the equivalent of a large titanite shard in Dark Souls. So that means that this early in the game we have already acquired 9 skill points, while still being at level 1, and we have acquired enough red feathers in these areas to upgrade our axe to +3 already. And thus the monk boss at the top of the temple was, well, pretty much almost dead already after a single backstab and a combo. So it seems to me that you are pretty much expected to fight this boss the moment you first enter this temple. But other than that, it also demonstrates how much of a difference backstabbing makes in this game. And the key that is dropped by the monk is the monk key to the next area. But before dealing with any sort of monk key business, we have unfinished business in this area, as there is one more boss remaining. Also, we can acquire a fancy looking attire from the monk boss that goes well together with the black attire from pre-ordering. Now that's what I call a lady in fine feather.
I do a lot of gooning.
And hey, it has great defenses against magic and feathering, which the next boss may or may not do. Actually, I don't really know actually, but when it comes to our damage output, as extreme as the axe was against the axe monk, that weapon class is nowhere near as effective against beast-type bosses. In fact, it seems to me that Honglian is explicitly resistant to blunt damage. However, what I didn't know at the time is that she's apparently extremely weak to poise break, which is a really awkwardly named status effect in this game that is essentially the same as bleed in Dark Souls. Yeah, I don't know. But the thing is that you can afflict this status effect very quickly on her by using the pre-order axe. In fact, it seems that I have underestimated that weapon to begin with, and this won't be the only example of a weapon that I grossly underestimated. Regardless, be that as it may, switching to dual blades would obviously result in instantaneous success, right? Okay, yeah, perhaps not as instantaneous as instant ramen. Yeah, that is a constant source of frustration in this game, I'm afraid. Getting knocked down on the ground, which leaves you completely vulnerable. That is going to get old very quickly. Well, apparently it has become old news by now, because after finishing this playthrough, a new patch came out that fixed this nuisance. Yeah, lovely timing. But before that patch, basically if you get hit once and it knocks you down on the ground, 9 out of 10 times you are bound to get hit a second time. I mean, I know that Wuchang has feathers on her arm, but based on the title and how falling down is such a problem in this game, she might have feathers on her ass as well. Then again, we know better because of, certain outfits. Unfortunately for Honglian, I am even more of a glutton than she is, although in my case it's for punishment. And not for, well, again, I didn't pay any attention to the story, but I expect it to be something very disturbing and morbid and dark and probably something to do with eating human flesh or something. Yeah, okay, nice. I was just about to say, dual blades are not that great against for breaking enemies' posture, unfortunately. Not the best weapon for that, but great at DPS, as you can see. That's the one benefit that dual blades have. Great DPS if you have the stamina for it and Skyward Might to make use of your R2 attacks. And, of course, building up status effects. That's where this weapon class very much shines. Well, after turning this glutton to glut off and acquiring a useful pendant, but with a rather vague description, which is unfortunately par for the course in this game. But now it was time to go down into Blighttown. And that's not even much of an exaggeration, as some enemies literally inflict the Blight status effect in this area. But also level design wise, the verticality leaves me vertically challenged. And there's even a door here that I never found a way to open up. But then again, quite literally the entire game is like that. Where you constantly find new side paths and whatnot. Also, I just happened to encounter a red eye enemy that drops a skill point that I didn't even remember being there. And as you would have noticed, at this point I switched to the longsword because this area contains a very special one. A sword that turns into a whip, allowing for additional reach, which will come in handy quite a few times. But other than skill points and weapons, we need good pendants for additional perks. And this area contains 2 prestigiously practical and pragmatic pendants to have in your back pocket. Namely one that makes you immune to the paralyzing effects of Scream AoEs, while also providing an additional defense boost, and a pendant that boosts your stamina recovery, which is very helpful on level 1, not to mention that the stamina regen in this game is already a bit on the slower side. But you can have an extreme amount of it, although that won't really apply to this level 1 run. Now, if you thought that at the bottom of this game's version of Blighttown we would encounter a human spider, then, well, you can go and eat shit, because it's actually a human centipede. Yeah, they definitely were taking the centipiss with that one. Just my 2 cents. But the thing with this fight is that you can use the environment to your advantage. Because if you bait the boss to attack the electrified stones in the arena, it won't even have 1 out of 1,000 legs to stand on. Now, because of that, I assumed that the lightning sword from the deluxe edition would be the best choice of weapon here. But for whatever reason, the whip sword buffed with fire did more damage. Unfortunately, the boss can also inflict a lot of damage on me. And I wasn't expecting to notice this early that I have less health to work with at level 1. But I have in fact less health to work with at level 1. Nevertheless, perhaps surprised enough, but not weak enough to knock me over with a feather. After all, as I mentioned before, Wuchang is a Souls-like in which armor sets actually make a noticeable difference. And each outfit has its own specialty, where it provides massive damage against specific damage type, but little or even negative defenses to other damage types and status effects. The problem though is, you kind of have to guess a bit what type of damage a boss inflicts. Not to mention that different attacks can have different damage types. And you can't really have high defenses against all at once. However, after this fight, there will be a specific outfit that is incredibly average. Which sounds like a bad thing, but it actually kinda isn't. Fuck, I got poisoned, but let's just keep attacking. Oh, okay, move away then. Heal the poison. No, whip attack. You know what? Maybe fire bombs actually do something. Could be worse. It's not the best, but... Oh, that was it! He killed himself! He literally killed himself. I went behind the stone and he killed himself. I'll take it. Okay, not the most elegant victory, but at least the ending was fun. I think he actually gives me an armor set here, and I think for some reason that in my first playthrough he didn't do that, which is actually a very good set because it's very average, which sounds weird. It's like, huh? How the hell is an average armor set good? Well, the point is basically it doesn't really have any downsides. It basically just, you see that there's no negative for status effects, and it has pretty decent resistances for basically everything. So it's just a good overall type, good general type of armor. And it looks pretty good as well, by the way. Oh, by the way, of course, this is not my first playthrough, but we're going to pretend that this is my first playthrough. Ah, okay guys, finally a shrine. I'm so happy that the shrine is here. Okay, let's quickly interact. Wow, what the fuck? Ah, what the hell? A mimic shrine? I just get body slammed by a mimic shrine. What the fuck is that? They actually put a mimic shrine in this game? What a bunch of dicks. How dare they? Sorry, my acting skills are not that great. And my gaming skills also apparently not, because I almost get killed by this fucker. And yeah, they're very buff. They're very buff. That's better. Yes, they actually have mimic shrines in this game. There's actually a very helpful way to tell if it's a mimic shrine that Lemon actually pointed out. Because when you first encounter a shrine that's a real shrine, it says offer blood. But if it's a mimic shrine, it says interact. So that's how you can tell the difference. Now, although the previous boss fight had a gimmick, the following fight can truly be regarded as a gimmick boss fight. So I suppose we could refer to it as the Demon Souls would. Basically, the boss is stationary and can suck you into a pool of despair in front of it. which is this game's version of Curse. And he can spawn several branches that branch off from the boss, given that he's essentially a sentient tree branch of sorts, making him absurdly weak to fire. In fact, you can completely cheese the fuck out of him with the fireball spell that you acquire in the area before it. Now, even though I don't use any spells in this run, even firebombs can eliminate the majority of his health bar, and when you run out, well, apparently you don't even really need to understand what's going on to emerge victorious in this encounter. Yeah, that's even lamer than a Demon Souls gimmick boss. So an even more appropriate name would be the Demon Souls Would Not. However, do not allow this to lure you into a false sense of security, thinking that the boss fights in this game are easy peasy of the lemon squeezy variety, because now we are nearing the end of chapter 1 and an immense difficulty spike is upon us. But before that, there are 2 more skill points that we can acquire in this area. First of all, there is a magical door, one of many in this game, that poses a cryptic question of sorts, and one answer will warp you away, and the other will grant you access to a benediction stone, which is sort of the equivalent of a blood gem in Bloodborne, but actually functions more like a rune does in Bloodborne, some of which are incredibly efficient, but in my case I want to be warped away, since it places you in a part of the castle that, to my knowledge at least, is not accessible by any other means. And over there we will find another red eye enemy that drops a skill point. Unfortunately, I kind of dropped that before I pretty much had the chance to do anything. Regardless, to my great relief, the game was gracious enough to respawn me at the warp point, not at the latest shrine, given that the magical doors cannot be activated twice. So even though when I died I was like, give me a break, well, the game did in fact give me a break. Well, sort of, as I immediately died again. And because I was at full madness, it made an inner demon spawn at the same location where I revived. Which, as I mentioned before, can be helpful because of infighting. But it seems to be that your inner demon scales along with your own level, making her incredibly weak against enemies because, after all, I'm at level 1. After that, there is a mini-boss that guards an upgrade to your healing flask, but also drops a skill point. And, very importantly, the second brilliant red feather, which would allow me to upgrade my weapon to +4. And the good thing is that at this point I had enough skill points to purchase the parry upgrade for the longsword. After all, the game itself advises you to use either Deflect or Clash to deal with Lady Honglan's relentless attacks. Because contrary to the previous fights, this is where the true Wuchang begins. She is the first big fish in a sometimes way too small pond. Because yes, you get to fight her inside of the palace pond of all places. Yeah, what a duck. Although, in all honesty, I didn't feel like I got that much benefit out of parrying her at all. Sure, it's somewhat beneficial. After all, her dash attack is easy to parry, but you don't get that much damage out of it. And in her second phase, she has a tendency to stop short, throwing you completely off. Simply put, if you instead go for backstabs, that will allow you to get a massive amount of damage in. Although granted, doing so is not an easy thing to do. Technically her dash can be backstabbed, but this is already dependent on spacing to get into the right position. But it's also dependent on what she happens to do next, making it a matter of RNG. So the most reliable opportunities are her downward kick, mainly in the first phase. Although she can also sometimes do it out of nowhere and then you won't be ready for it. So you will have to survive through an onslaught of attacks while waiting for her to do that specific attack at the end of her combo. And in her second phase, your best opportunity is her giant combo, ending in her leapfrogging out of the pond and then crashing down upon you. Although you need to be exactly behind her when she sticks the hung landing, because she only gives you a very small window of opportunity to get a backstab in. And what's even worse is that she doesn't even have the courtesy to die after the fight. In fact, she more or less simply beats you in the cutscene, but then decides to let you live as well. So, we definitely haven't seen the last of her, but we have seen the last of chapter 1. Well, sort of, since chapter 4 is actually like a fucked up version of chapter 1. But that's beside the point for now. What does matter is that chapter 2 and 3, at least after gaining 2 more skill points from dancing gracefully, brutally slaughtering another red eye enemy arguably less gracefully, and taking an elevator ride so lengthy that I expected to face False King Alant at the end of it, we instead encounter a fork in the road. Which is weird because you would normally stick that in a piece of food while eating. But the road also goes in 2 separate directions. One leading to the ice area, which is essentially chapter 2. But we are first going to take the other road leading to chapter 3. Because by doing so, we can pick up some early upgrade materials for our weapons. Moreover, we encounter what's essentially the second hub area of the game. And right outside of that, there is a fixed encounter with an inner demon, as there are several of those around the world, that will drop the other type of needle that we can use in the tempering menu. Namely stone needles with their own set of perks. This particular one will increase the amount of elemental damage that you add when buffing your weapon. Unfortunately, the enemy right in front of her was being a pain in the beak for now. So maybe we have to come back here later. Regardless, there is a particular peculiarity regarding the level design here. It is actually possible to skip the entire adjacent forest area and approach the boss of the forest from the other side, by moving backwards through the rebel camp. Not to mention that I actually found another enemy dropping a skill point there. But contrary to what you would expect in a Souls game, there is no untraversable fork wall blocking your path. You can enter the boss arena from the backside as well. Now of course, you wouldn't actually want to fight the bow sorceress at this point in the run. Not to mention that you wouldn't want such a lengthy run back either. However, if you quit out, you will respawn on the other side of the arena, allowing for direct access to the nearby shrine. You can also move all the way around the arena, but this is a shorter and safer method. Now, to be fair, this is a bit more of a gimmick, unless you don't want to go through the forest in your particular playthrough. Which is kind of understandable, because that area is confusing as all fuck. But since there are some highly valuable pickups there, we are going to be confused as fuck while trying to acquire these things. In fact, I got so lost in these woods that I almost expected to run into a skull kid giving me a piece of heart or something. But even though that didn't happen, it did turn out that it was a good thing that I got lost, because then I discovered something that I didn't even know existed. Oh, whoa! Okay, so that's how you reach it. Oh, a demon? Wait, hold on, there's a demon here? Oh, that's a brilliant red. Okay, that's good, but I didn't know there was a demon here. I never encountered this demon. So this is a... This one drops a needle that I'm not even aware of. But I'm not going to defeat her because she kills me in 2 hits when I'm at full health. So she does like 90% damage. And you can't backstab demons. In fact, you can't even really poise break them. Well, you can, but then they will just sit on the ground for a while and you can't do a critical. No. Fuck, but now I want to know what kind of needles this one drops. Because I've never fought this one. Please, on the ground? Yes, good. I don't have stamina, shit. No! I definitely can kill her. And I should kill her, because I really want to know what she drops. Little risky, but worked out. Okay, she's burning. Another jump. Oh, she avoided it. What the fuck? Come on, give me the opportunity to heal. Missed again. No, she doesn't walk into it. Shit. Stop healing. And stop not walking into my attacks. Okay, good. Yeah, I got her. Rootstone Needle status. I assume that boosts your status build-up. Stone needle cover when inserted after increases the status build-up gained from... Okay. That's not a bad needle. You know, I wouldn't even be surprised if there are more places in the world that I haven't found where inner demons will spawn, providing you with needles that I also don't even know exist. Who knows how many of those there can be. But it is a good thing that I found this particular one, because a needle that boosts status effect buildup definitely puts the need in needle. But even after leaving the forest behind, we're not out of the woods yet. Because we also had to deal with the other inner demon that I mentioned before, outside of the refugee camp. Not to mention that the feathered enemy close to her turned out to count as a red-eye enemy as well, who drops a skill point. Kinda hard to tell because of their design, but I'm certainly not complaining. However, something that I would like to complain about, and based on the fact that they nerfed them in a recent patch, I wasn't exactly the only one. But that is the sheer amount of mines in the snow area. Now, fortunately, you can avoid the mines by going through the mines. You know, not through the mines themselves, of course, but the mines where miners are mining. So not the land mines, but the mines inside of the land. What? Okay, so to whomever decided that there should be so many mines, I would say, up yours. But actually, you can even avoid both variety of mines by dropping down at this particular location. Giving me flashbacks to the Ringed City for some particular reason. Well, you can skip part of the mines at least. And apparently, you can even skip the next boss fight as well. Because when I was doing my blind playthrough of this game, I was in constant Discord contact with the Backlogs, Arcane, and Doomwolf doing their first playthroughs. Which was great in general, by the way, given how different our experiences of the game were. And regarding this particular area, there are apparently two ways to drop the drawbridge to the next area. You can either beat the boss in the rebel camp, or you can light all the fires on top of the towers. Now, of course, I don't want to miss out on a boss fight to begin with, but on the other hand, if I had gone up the towers, I would have discovered that there was yet another red-eye enemy there, dropping a skill point. Now, fortunately, I did find that out much later in the run, since because I went through the mines to avoid the mines, I missed out on a favorite benediction stone of mine, which I would have to come back for later on. Now, speaking of the rebel camp boss, he actually reminds me of a fight from Nioh 2, namely Megara Naotaka. He even has some similar moves and is fought also in an ice area. Although what sets this boss apart is his bow. Then again, that also reminds me of a particular Nioh 2 boss fight. Although instead of ice arrows, these cause paralysis. Not the status effect of the same name in Nioh, but actually similar to the wind status effect, also from Nioh. Meaning that being affected by paralysis has nothing to do with your movement, but instead it lowers your damage output. Yeah, I feel that this game has some problems with how they name their status effects. Although in my particular case, it will likely kill me before inflicting the actual status. And speaking of damage output, because of the trip into Chapter 3 territory before, and with my newly acquired Bandit dual blades, I expect that things will quickly go south for this General of the North. Because after my relentless attacks, he won't be able to tell east from west. Almost a stance break, but he's going to go into a second phase. Shit, that sucks. Because now he's going to recover, I think. Okay, another temper. Ah! No! Another tempering quick. I see his stance meter is completely recovered after switching phases, so that is definitely a shame. Oh, crapalicious. Heal. Yeah. Oh, nice! First try victory. Awesome sauce. Alright, the first try victory. Applause for myself. Dance with grace. Well, let's do that. Dance with grace. Well, it certainly looks very graceful. As long as I don't dance off the cliff, please. There we go. See? You get a skill point for that. Is someone using fireworks? What the fuck? It's the summer. They're firing fireworks out in the street. What the fuck is that? Yeah, the problem is there's a cutscene in the way, and that's a stupid mechanic that is probably unintentional. That your buff runs out during a cutscene. Yeah, see, my buff already is gone. So that does suck. Oh, that doesn't count because when he summons the storm, he is immune to backstabs for whatever reason, which is pretty annoying. Yeah, a lot of humanoid bosses in this game, they have specific animations, and during those animations they are all of a sudden immune to getting backstabbed. So yeah, in his first phase I know when to get backstab opportunities, namely after his triple jump attack. In the second phase I actually don't know when I can backstab him. So I'm kind of guessing basically my way through the second phase. See, always a guaranteed first backstab opportunity. Okay. He's burning, that's very nice. Now he's going to second phase. But now, of course, I kind of have to guess for backstabs. I can try to clash through his attacks, come to think of it. Oh, I got him! That was kind of pure luck, but hey, I'll take it. Okay, heal, quick. Oh, whoa, wow, that worked! Oh, awesome, I have him. Okay, that was more luck than skill, I suppose, but hey, it worked out. I actually noticed that in my first playthrough as well, that simply guessing for backstabs is quite effective in this fight. Now, I'm pretty sure that in the Snow Palace I missed out on completing a whole lot of NPC questlines, since there are just so many of them in this game. In fact, you might as well refer to each of them as an NPC later. There's even an incarnation of what I assume is your inner demon, but non-hostile and cosplaying as a floor lamp. But one thing I did miss out on in my first playthrough was that the next boss first shows up as an NPC as well. And that is the one NPC that you would want to see later. Well, we do, and extremely soon, but as a boss fight. And with her Cinderella glass slippers, she definitely has a step on me mommy vibe. And she can indeed kick the shit out of you during the boss battle. However, that title actually belongs to the bow sorceress if you have experienced her grab attack.
I do a lot of gooning.
So in all fairness, I actually still don't know what her actual questline entails. But I do know that she somehow magically teleports down to the boss arena once you take the elevator down. And then all of a sudden she wants to kill you. Yeah, an ice-cold foxy lady indeed. Well, at least because of the trip into the forest earlier, I already had the Radiant Feathers required to upgrade my weapon to +7 rather than +6, which would have been the max at this point. And with some clear backstab opportunities, and even less clear ones where I'm not even sure why it counted as a backstab in the first place, although I'm not complaining, so surely the pain of missing opportunities would not lead to me suffering from miss stress. And indeed, that was ultimately not the issue. But just like with Honglan, the real issue is surviving while waiting for opportunities to strike. Which made her title very evident, because at this rate, she's going to screw me all night. Ah, she changed right at the wrong time. Heal. Oh, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Change the weapons around. Would be interesting if now all of a sudden I win the first attempt. Huh? That did not count as a backstab? Now it did. Oh fuck, I didn't have Skybound White. Shouldn't have done an R2 attack. Okay. Well, I definitely do more damage than with the axe, that's for sure. Damn it, I just don't know what she's doing. Well, that worked. Oh, almost got it to burn. That would have finished her off. Ah, that burn did finish her off now. I said that it would be ironic if now all of a sudden I would defeat her first try when using the dual blades, but that is exactly what happened. Alright, the next area seems to have been inspired by Sen's Fortress, but they even included its own version of a sand skip of sorts. Thank you Doomwolf for discovering this, because if you follow this particular boulder down, you can literally skip 90% of this entire area. And Doomwolf also advised me to try and deflect the next boss with a longsword, because unlike against Honglan, the follow-up attack will knock her down on the ground. However, with the Bandit's dual blade, the only dual blade that can block, and with enough skill points accumulated to unlock its deflect skill from the skill tree, there was potentially an even better approach available, namely a parry followed by a backstab. Which, well, it can be done, but not only is its timing incredibly strict, the actual deflect animation is rather awkward compared to the longsword, given that the longsword functions the same as deflecting in Sekiro. And I definitely prefer to use that approach instead. Although, that had an obvious downside, because this boss fight consists of 2 phases, and her beast form in the second phase cannot be parried at all. And that's where the dual blade with our higher DPS would have shined. Now when you combine that fact with my limited experience of this game, well, then in every sense of the word, this bride and I were a match made in hell, leading to an unbridled mess of just guessing my way through, for the most part. Okay, that was a decent first phase. But now things get more complicated and I no longer can deflect her. Because now she becomes... now she goes full Bloodborne, basically. But the music is awesome. The problem is I have so little experience with this fight. And I don't really know the moveset of this phase. Well, at least I have the pendant to make sure that I don't get stunned from screams, so that's helpful at least. Fuck! I think you simply need to completely move away from that. Instead of I try to iframe it. Uh-oh. What else she's doing? Oh! It's raining! I think when you are in the corner over there, you're actually safe from those projectiles. I tried to iframe it and that went very wrong. Damn it. The tail swipe constantly gets me. Double hitbox. Again with the tail swipe. Yeah, you absolutely need to move away from that. Yeah. Well, I got pretty far, that's for sure. Okay, this time I avoided it. Come on, break stance. That's better. Wow, I got dizzy there. Oh, the projectile. Ah, fuck! How do I avoid that? No! Oh, stay away, stay away. Yo, fuck it, let's heal. Okay. Shit! Now I did get hit by the tail. No, no, no! Heal, 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 heal. Damn it, that attack again. Quickly, just kill her, kill her, kill her. No, kill her, kill her, kill her. Oh my god, I'm really greedy. Come on. Yeah, okay, got her. I had to improvise my way pretty much through the second phase, but hey, it worked out. It worked out. Well, that's a nice way to end the stream, that's for sure. Oh, purchasing our outfit. That is a good way to end the stream. And there we go. As you can see, these weapons together form scissors. And you can actually use them as scissors. And when you use them with Skyborn Might, you inflict poise break. The downside of this weapon is, first of all, the base damage is quite a bit lower. But the downside is you can only buff this weapon with poise break. You cannot use fire buff. You see, I have my fire buff here. Can't use it. Now, I mentioned earlier on in the video that spears are not that efficient initially at level 1 due to how the skill tree is constructed, where the stuff that you really want is too far away, like the instant backstab. However, by now I have accumulated enough points, and after the next boss there is a specific spear available with some unique qualities. However, there was yet another spear that I completely underestimated that can be acquired early on in the game from the panda merchant. So I suppose I got bamboozled by how fancy it looks, being yet another whip style weapon, that I never even noticed its unique property and simply dismissed the weapon based on its low base damage. However, the steam-powered spear has a unique trait where its weapon art, when energized with Skyborn Might, will forcefully turn an enemy around, allowing you to create backstab opportunities. There's even a benediction stone available specifically for this skill. In fact, me questioning what the hell that stone could possibly be meant for, led a viewer to explain this unique trait of the steam-powered spear to me. And given how many humanoid bosses there are in the game, where you are constantly trying to bait backstab opportunities, being able to create them yourself may truly allow this run to go full steam ahead. Oh, well, nice start. Oh, he's like Ishin. He has a gun. Oh, that did turn him around. Okay. Dude, that's powerful as fuck. Yeah, works. Damn. That I really wish I knew about that earlier. I mean, it can be a little difficult to implement, but when it works, it's powerful as fuck. The problem is, when do you use Steam Chain? Because it doesn't stun them after all. Okay, I think I got him. Well, almost. Yeah, I got him. Alright, very nice. Yeah, as I said, it can be a little difficult to implement it, but when it works like a charm. But again, this attack has no... it doesn't actually, you know, make them flinch. So they can hyper armor right through it. And I guess that's a good thing, otherwise it would be a little bit too extremely overpowered. Speaking of benediction stones and their unique properties, some of these stones have a secondary perk that can only become active when 3 separate stones, all sharing that same trait, are equipped at once. And these specific ones provide a boost to stab attacks, so perfect when using a spear. However, due to my inexperience with the game, and how immense it is, I missed out on one of those stones. And when I went searching for it in the snow area, I actually discovered that there was yet another red eye enemy there who drops a skill point. Remember that in my first playthrough, I also made the drawbridge drop down by defeating the rebel camp boss, instead of lighting the fires on top of the towers. So I quite literally had never been on top of this tower before. So, with my stones happily in hand, I was on cloud 9. especially when I picked up the Cloud Piercer Spear, which has a weapon skill that inflicts the Poise Break status effect. You know, that awkwardly named bleed effect. However, it can still be buffed with fire, allowing me to build up 2 status effects at once. A fantastic weapon against the upcoming Electric Tiger boss fight. However, the bird lady from the forest, whose boss arena we traversed before, was also still alive, and against her, dual blades seemed to be more effective in order to DPS her down after backstabbing her. Fortunately, some of the attacks in these combos also consist of stab attacks, so I can still kill one bird with 3 stones. Although this boss seems to be neither weak to fire nor to Poise Break. But according to Arcane, she is weak to Frostbite. And by now I had feathered my nest by accumulating enough skill points to reach the corresponding needle within the skill tree. Now, the bow sorcerer has a backstab opportunity after each of her jump attacks, but given the strict timing to avoid the attack itself, basically meant that I was just kinda winging it. Nevertheless, based on the results, I still felt like I was operating at peak performance, because her wings were clipped in no time. And given how she mocked me for being a mere mortal, it felt more than appropriate to flip her the bird after fouling the nest of this foul fowl.
Mortal scum!
The good thing about this weapon art is that not only does it inflict Poise Break, it actually knocks enemies out of their animations. One thing that is quite terrible is the weapon art of this weapon costs 3 Skyborn Might to use, so that is quite a lot. Nice! That's what I call a Poise Break, but not what the... Hey, hello! I didn't get the critical, fuck you! What kind of fucked up shit is that? No, you don't. Yes, I cancelled him. Alright, second phase. Can you calm down a little bit? Jesus. Drama queen. You can now all of a sudden walk through the air. I'm walking through the air. The problem is, the second phase is a complete clusterfuck and I don't really know his moveset. Okay. Very nice. Cancel his attack again. Very nice. Heal quick. Oh, one more hit and then he burns. No, now he burns. Okay, good. Thank you, hyper armor. Shit, I missed. No! Yeah. Stoppable force. Nice. How the hell do you avoid those projectiles from the sky? I can't even see them coming. Yeah. No! Heal, 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 heal! I can't even see what's going on, but I apparently won. Okay, gee, I was just stuck there in the corner. I got very lucky there in the end, because I got the opportunity to heal. And I wasn't even sure I would get that opportunity, but... wow, that second phase went way better than I expected it. Because that's a bit of a clusterfuck, as you can see. Well, the lightning resistance helped a lot from the given that those orbs that fall from the sky when he starts flying around, I can't even see them coming, so I don't even know what to do about those. So having 30% lightning resistance is definitely helpful there. Well, that at least demonstrates that choosing between the lady or the tiger is a conundrum that does indeed contain a solution. However, despite that being a two-phase boss fight, after earning another skill point in the cave leading to the harbor, I would have to earn my own stripes by dying over and over again against an NPC, who for whatever reason has a name above its health bar and a seemingly infinite stamina bar. Not to mention that somehow this NPC happens to be immune to backstabs. Because fuck you, that's why. However, by countering his infinite stamina with the sort of infinite combo potential of the Empyrean axe, I was eventually able to axe him from the game. And the reason for fighting him in the first place is because he drops the highest tier of Feather, meaning the Titanite slab of this game. My weapon is only at +8 at this time, but it's obviously important for later. He also drops his longsword, but since it scales with feathering, it would sadly not benefit me being at level 1. Although, as you would have noticed, by now I have accumulated a generous amount of skill points, after the massive head start of 5 initial ones, all the way back from the tutorial boss. And speaking of which, we now have a rematch against him. Because beating up our baby brother only a single time wasn't fucked up enough, so we get to do it twice, but with an extended moveset this time. No clue whether the pre-order axe would have been as effective here as it could have been in the first encounter, but he does seem to be less weak against poise break. Although the benefit of that effect is that the build-up meter goes down very slowly. So in that sense we do have a sort of steady build-up. Well, as long as we actually manage to land the hit when using Unstoppable Force, because he's not exactly an immovable object. Unstoppable Force. Nice. Avoid the grab. Avoid the water. Unstoppable Force. Nice, that was a poise break. I'm out of healing. Jesus. Well, good thing he doesn't one-shot you. Stop. Oh, fuck no. 2. Up and down. Okay, good. Okay, we're getting close. Oh, he does it again? Okay, good. Ah, no Excalibur Might. Okay, well, fuck it then. Unstoppable Force. Yeah, oh, I got him. He's dead. He is dead. Critical attack. And he's dead. Awesome. So I might have... I don't understand the lore, but I might just have killed my little brother, my own little brother in my underwear. To be fair, even that is not really the worst thing that has ever happened in a Souls-like. You know, given how fucked up the lore usually is in these types of games. But there you go. So, after finally laying our brother to rest, we are rewarded with one hell of a new axe. Namely one that has a freaking built-in cannon. And, well, I didn't really end up using it, though. Not really. Yeah. Well, as I said, I hardly understand the story, so I can't even tell what is canon and what's not. But to be fair, now that we enter Chapter 4, I can hardly even tell what happened to the areas from Chapter 1. Because, I don't know, the Blood Moon descends or Hotel Krat got attacked or something. But whatever it may have been, the world has completely gone to shit. Even to the point that my inner demon suddenly has an actual dedicated boss health bar. And this will not be the only encounter of this kind. The inner demons encountered around the world each have their own weapon class, but this one switches between dual blades, axes and longswords. So basically it's starting to accumulate. Which is an interesting concept, because given that there is one final ultimate inner demon fight remaining in Chapter 5, I think you can guess what the end result will be. Well, using the infinite combo potential of the axe as a type of cheese tactic was indeed effective once more. However, spoiler alert for the final confrontation, It actually will turn out to be a Swiss cheese tactic, because it has quite a few holes in it. But before that, we have a rematch with none other than Commander Honglan, pulling a Millennia type transformation. And you know what kind of difficulty spike she was before? And this time, she might have a small health bar, but a massive damage output. In other words, she has become a glass cannon. But I expect to shatter long before she would. Let's just see how this goes. So, because if you're fast enough, you can kind of hyper armor through this. And it works. So you have an instant backstab before she even has the chance to really do anything. As you can see, she... Oh. Yeah? Ah, fuck. It was not a backstab. As you can see, she has very little health to work with. Wow. Okay. Surprising. Okay, heal. Oh, second phase. Oh, fuck. Oh, wow. Dude, I'm getting lucky as fuck. I'm just guessing for the most part. Dude, this is going way too well. This is not good. Well, it's good, but surprising. Dude, this is this is insane. How did I get this lucky? And I didn't even get backstab. She was super passive. What the fuck is this? Well, that's... Okay, I'm not quite sure how to explain that one. I basically just got backstabs just at random. What? Huh? Okay, well, that was all on. Huh. Let's see how this turns out. On my first playthrough, I also noticed that this boss had way too little health. They definitely should have given him more health. Also, they should have given her a cutscene here. But you can immediately backstab her, just like Honglan. Should have been closer to her, but doesn't really matter, that's fine. That was the chain effect. Wow, you see how much damage you can get out of that. Oh fuck, I missed. Oh fuck. Okay, good. Oh fuck, now she has a shield.
Let the heretics suffer judgment. By divine decree, they fall.
Fortunately, you can iframe this. Oh, almost. Oh fuck, I'm getting too greedy here. Yeah, now she has a shield, so of course she can't get backstab. Oh, I first have to break the shield. Uh-oh. Okay, move away, heal. Yeah, backstab. Okay, good. Fuck. Oh fuck, the delayed attacks like in Elden Ring. Damn it, I want to use my steam ability. Oh, that doesn't work. Steam. Yeah, backstab. No, no, no. Yeah, oh, it did work, it did work. Come on, not a first try victory again, right? What the fuck? Oh. Am I just playing too well, or is the game just not hard enough? Why do I have 2 first try victories on level 1 against bosses in chapter 4 of the game? Again, I shouldn't complain, but it's shocking. It is definitely shocking. Well, get ready for an even bigger shock, because other than balance issues regarding difficulty dips and spikes being a little bit all over the place in this game, there is also the honestly quite usual imbalance found in Souls games, where certain equipment can be completely overpowered under the right circumstances. After all, it wasn't merely the pre-order axe and the steam-powered spear that I ignorantly had dismissed before. The same applies to the fire longsword that dropped from the Rebel Camp boss, which has a weapon skill that lights the blade aflame, but this damage is hugely increased when tempered with fire on top of that. And the weapon skill, which can already be buffed with a pendant, unleashes several small fireballs as well. And when using that against a large target, and remember there's also a pendant that increases damage done against large enemies, that means that all fireballs will hit as separate instances of damage. Not only is the the Reborn, a two-faced boss that will turn into the Dragon Emperor, not only is he already very weak to fire, but with all of the former things combined, plus benediction stones that increase fire damage, burn buildup, and a damage increase to the burn status itself, that results in an absolutely disgusting amount of damage. Not to mention that my third pendant is the one making me immune to scream AoEs, allowing for a free damage opportunity whenever he does his Dragon Emperor, which is often long enough to do the weapon skill twice even. Oh, and did I mention that this weapon skill only requires a single charge of Skyborn Might? Yeah, I have the feeling that this blade is going to get nerfed at some point. Regardless, it felt warranted in this particular fight, because this boss has the cheapest move of all. He can heal himself by casting a ginormous health siphoning AoE around him, healing him and killing you in seconds. In fact, had I not panicked and kept attacking, I might have managed to out-DPS him in time on my very first attempt, given that he initiated his healing move very late into his second phase. But unfortunately, I didn't do that, and thus commenced the death spiral. Because despite my outrageous damage output, it didn't matter much if I couldn't stay alive in the first place. So I was holding something massively OP, but my massive and hot OP-ness became flaccid rather quickly when he just kept sucking all the juice out of me. Not to mention that I am after all at level 1 with not that many skill points covering nodes that increase HP. Now, Arcane mentioned in his weaponless challenge that he actually managed to knock the Emperor out of his healing animation with a fire melee spell. But then why did I never manage to do that with the amount of damage that I did? Is it somehow a spell exclusive thing? Well, according to someone in his comments, it's because that spell can backstab, and doing a charger 2 attack would have had the same effect. Well, I don't have the opportunity to check it out now, but let me get this straight. You can cancel the healing AoE of an enemy that cannot be backstabbed by doing the same thing that would backstab a backstabbable enemy, but in this particular case, it would instead cancel a healing animation. Well, excuse the ever-living fuck out of me for not coming up with that on my own. So, at this rate, there is pretty much no conceivable way that even with the amount of damage that I can inflict, that I will be able to actually make my way through and... oh, I actually got really favorable RNG this time, and he just happened not to do the healing animation in the first place. Huh. Okay, well, that works too. In fact, that is my favorite strategy. Just win by getting really fucking lucky. So, in the end, the Dragon Emperor didn't rule for very long, meaning he was more of a temporer. But despite his appearance, that would lead you to think that he was the final boss, not to mention that you fight him by backtracking all the way back to where the game originally began. But no, he is not. there is still the entirety of chapter 5. And what a fuckload of a chapter that one is. This area is a pain in the dick to move through, even with a leveled character. A confusing hellish underworld with poison swamps, way too slow moving elevators, and a billion enemies that shoot projectiles at you from off screen. And something I didn't know at the time, you can actually, literally, skip half of this entire chapter by simply moving backwards from the first shrine. Yeah, you heard that right, you're not actually required to move all the way around. At least not if you're prepared to skip the final inner demon encounter, which is linked to the true ending. Also, I encountered something very strange. A mimic shrine already active near another shrine, which also drops a skill point by the way. However, that shrine isn't ordinary either. It warps you to another empty shrine that I encountered in chapter 4 near 2 red-eye enemies, which some viewers were speculating that it might serve as a DLC entrance at some point. But instead, it turns out that it's somehow, and for whatever reason, linked to one particular shrine in chapter 5. But why? Now, it's not as a safety device if you somehow didn't rest at the first shrine in chapter 5, because if you go back to the cave where you fought the Dragon Emperor, which now has collapsed, there's a war point there as well. But then, why does the other one exist? Well, I have absolutely no idea. Perhaps someone watching has figured it out and can let me know. Regardless, the final confrontation with the inner demon cannot be initiated without first defeating a secret boss encounter all the way back in the forest area, which you will need to backtrack to after entering chapter 5. Now, I didn't do that in my first playthrough, meaning I will have to fight this guy for the first time ever while doing a level 1 challenge. So, the results were kinda, let's just say that I feared that my own hair would turn white when eventually getting through this endeavor. Because despite there being some clear backstab opportunities, once the boss enters his second phase, he summons shadow versions of himself on top of doing alterations of his previous combos, double throwing you off. On top of that, he doesn't seem to have any clear weakness either, so my damage against him was quite low, whereas his damage towards me was high. However, that didn't even matter that much, given that he almost never gives you a healing opportunity in the first place. Oh, and to be very clear, the OP Flame Sword strategy doesn't work against human enemies, only giant bosses. So I can't say that I even had much of a strategy other than that cancelling his aerial bulwark, a sort of spear-specific parry-like dodge, can be cancelled by doing one of your own, which in turn can trigger him to do an attack that can be instantly backstabbed. But other than that, this is one of those instances where the only thing you can really do is to just get good. That would have been it. That would have been it. But I was probably I was one short, I think. Unfucking believable. The meter was completely full, and I don't know exactly how much damage he takes from Poise Break, but still. Even the damage from that failed backstab would then have been enough to kill him. Oh, absolutely unreal. Oh. No, 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 I'm not behind him. I'm not behind him. Well, at least I still got a backstab. Jesus. Okay, unstoppable force. The problem is he's just not weak to Poise Break. Nor to fire, by the way. In fact, I have no clue what he's weak to. I think it's a safe bet to say he's not weak to frost. Okay, rebuff. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, good. Stoppable force. But I still need one more. I don't know what to do there. Yeah? Backstep? No! Yeah, oh yes, yes, yes it is. Yes it is. Yes it is. Okay, heal then. Oh yeah. Yeah, the twirl. Do it! No! It didn't count! How the fuck did that not count? Please, do it! Yes! I have him! I have him! I have him! I got him! First victory against Zhao Yun on level 1. As you saw it, I got the trophy because I never defeated him before. After the fight, you can pray at his gravestone. And as part of his outfit, you will actually get a white wig. How about that? I was right. My hair did turn white by the time I finally managed to beat him. And I would have said that that was the hardest fight in the game. And it did take me the most attempts by far. But in principle, at least at level 1, without using any magic spells, to my great surprise, it was the final inner demon of all encounters that I would have to deem as the toughest encounter of all. Why? Well, because this is like the Sir Gideon Ofnir of Wuchang, who ironically at level 1 or under other specific restrictions can also suddenly become a complete pain in the dick. But the inner demon version of this similar concept is actually implemented quite a bit better. The final incarnation of your shadow self seems to possess your entire moveset. And I don't mean what you have gained access to, I mean everything that you could potentially gain access to. Every single spell in the game, every weapon, and even freaking martial arts. Not to mention a giant ass health bar. However, remember the infinite X combo that I had been using before? Well, as I said, yes, that is a cheesy tactic, but it is what I call a Swiss cheese tactic. It can definitely get results, but it's one that is full of holes. Because this demon is too tough, too quick, too nimble, too teleporty or even iframey actually, to keep this going for long enough, and also makes it too RNG dependent. Meaning, it can only get you so far. But hey, Wuchang has endured a lot throughout this run. So she was determined to shove both her arm-wielding arm and her feathery arm all the way in her demon. Okay. Please, poise break. No! And no Skyball Might either. Heal. Okay. Okay, poise break, very good. Of course, not what the game calls poise break, but that's... we already know how lame that is. I don't hit her. Poise break. Okay, good. Please hit her. Yeah, please. No, I don't have Skyball Might. Fuck. No, I'm dead. Heal, 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 heal. Heal twice. And buff. Oh, whoa. Please. No, it did it? Okay. Yeah. And didn't hit. No, she heals! Fucking bitch. I don't have stamina. No, I couldn't. That was not a good time to... No, I'm dead. Oh, I'm lucky. Oh, stamina. No, I don't hit her! No! Heal? Yeah? Please? Keep going, please? No! Stop moving away! Yeah, got her! Got her! Got her! I was panicking near the end there. Basically, I was panicking through the entire fight, but still. Probably not the best strategy, but it's the best I could come up with. And once I figured out it was possible, it basically became an obsession. There we are. Well, minus the hat, it looks really nice. Hold on, this with the white hair, that would actually work. Oh, this is not bad at all. Speaking of which, and with jiggle physics, I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but...
I do a lot of gooning.
And after all of that, there was apparently yet another red eye enemy dropping a skill point here. Now, I did skip another one in this chapter, that was too much of a hassle, but in total, that means that there are 34 skill points in this game that can be acquired without leveling up. And who knows if there are any left that I simply didn't manage to find. So it's not exactly the Elden Ring absurdity of stat boosting a level 1 character, but I do have to say that it's pretty damn generous, and nowhere near as restrictive as I thought that a level 1 run would be. But now, the final boss remains. And if you thought that the Dragon Emperor was presented as one, then look and listen to the run-up to the true final boss. Unfortunately for him, he is a large target and I have the fire sword. Dude, this damage is insane. Dude, what the fuck? That's almost a third of his health bar already. Smite those unworthy. I think this sword is going to get nerfed at some point. Yeah, this is like a cheese tactic. Oh fuck, the water attack. I don't know how to avoid this. Quick, heal. I just need to heal through it because I have no idea how to avoid this. Okay, well that worked out. Oh, I did that Scribe of Might, of course. Yeah, this weapon is definitely going to get nerfed. Especially, it only uses a single Skyborn Might charge. Well, I guess we just have to call ourselves lucky then. Because that is the end of the playthrough.